And now, broadcasting from their secret hideout, Checkpoint XP presents a show about comic books and superheroes. Robbie Landis, Joe Sloan, The Other Identity.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Other Identity. I am, of course, your main host, your hero, the one in charge. I am the Great Landis, and along with me, unfortunately,
until he's replaced,
is Joe Boy.
Yes.
How's it going, Joe? No, don't like answer that enthusiastically.
That's who I am.
You're so you're one of those sidekicks that's terrible and like doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
Thinks that he's great.
Knows that he's great. Welcome to the glorious grotto.
That's not bad. Damn it. Where was that like 5 episodes ago?
I don't know. The worst part is it's not like I spent the week thinking about it. That was like, as you were doing the intro, I'm like, the glorious grotto.
Well, yeah, that's how things come to you in the moment. You don't like...
Well, the moment happened to be 5 weeks later.
Great. Well, thank you for finally contributing. I do like the grotto. Glorious? I don't know if that like lines up with our
G
brand.
Word. Yeah, another
but we
G
need
word.
another good G word.
The gregarious grotto.
Let's think on it. Welcome, everyone, into The Other Identity. Show about comic books and comic book culture, of course. Today, as you may or may not have guessed, we're going to be talking about the Joker movie. We will try to be light on the spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay. We do encourage you throughout the show to give your own opinion in the chat, though. As always, we'd love to hear what you guys think. But I suppose to just jump right into it, overall, Joe, just like in a few short sentences, what did you think of the movie? You can score it or give it a grade, however you feel most comfortable doing it.
So I got to tell you, now some 3 days or 4 days removed from seeing the movie, I feel almost how I felt the way I did when I walked out of the theater, and that was, okay. I liked it. I enjoyed the film.
You didn't feel like your money was wasted?
No. Like Suicide Squad, I was viscerally angry leaving the theater.
Really?
And that movie won an Oscar. This movie, no, I felt like it was a good use of my money. I enjoyed myself throughout most of the movie. I just, looking around and seeing all these people like, oh my God, it's gonna change the face of comic book movies forever.
Ugh.
No, I didn't think that. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great or spectacular. It's not the best DC movie.
Not the worst, though.
No, oh God, no. It's top probably 3. Aquaman and Wonder Woman ahead of it, but
You haven't seen Shazam yet?
I haven't seen Shazam yet.
Okay,
I missed
All right.
that one. So yeah, top 3 to 5.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not the best one they've ever made, but no, it's far from the worst.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to agree with you overall. I don't think that my money was wasted. It was a night out with my girlfriend and one of her friends. When we went to dinner, so it was fine. There were probably other movies that I would have enjoyed less. Joaquin Phoenix's performance is hands down the best part about the film.
For sure.
I don't think there's anything about his involvement in the film that you can pick apart at.
Which is surprising to me because when he was first announced, I was very, very, I don't know about that.
How come?
I don't know. I've never been a big Joaquin Phoenix fan, and I did not foresee him playing the Joker very well. And yet he, like you say, he's the best part of the movie far and away.
I will give this to Joaquin Phoenix because as a person, as a human being, just some of the stuff that I've read about him, not a big fan at all. I feel like he falls in a similar category that Tom Cruise does. But his movies, when he's on stage, tends to be good, right? I can't deny the man's talent. So
yeah,
yes.
Like I say, I'm not a huge fan of his acting either. Usually, in this case, I thought he was stellar. I thought like you said, he's the best part of the movie. He does something different with the Joker that we haven't seen yet. I've never seen a portrayal of the Joker quite like his. And it was refreshing. Unlike Jared Leto, who tried to do a very different Joker, and it was awful and hard to watch.
Yeah.
This was, I legitimately, I would be happy to see him play the Joker more. I'll put it that way.
Do you not expect, because I don't think there's going to be. And in fact, I'm pretty sure the director has said no. But would you want to see a sequel or a continuation of this story?
And see, that's because there's a difference between would I want to see him play the Joker more or would I want to see a Joker 2, right? Those are two different questions. Do I want to see a Joker 2? No. No, I think this is a pretty good leave-off point for the Joker. I thought that was pretty well handled. Would I want to see him play the Joker again in some fashion? Yes. If it was up for, there's another Justice League movie that was going to involve the Joker, would I be up for them saying, yeah, we brought in Joaquin Phoenix to play him? Great. I don't know how you're going to make that work in the continuity, but great. That's amazing.
When have they ever been worried about continuity?
At DC, it's been a minute since they've been too worried about that.
We have Zod TV in the chat over at twitch.tv/checkpointxp saying, think he will get a nomination. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Heath Ledger got one.
He did.
This did so well around the film festival circuit that, yes, I think that the majority of the Academy will definitely look at this differently than they have comic book movies up to this point. I think that where this movie has done, quote unquote, the most is for people who don't watch a lot of comic book movies because they think that, Scorsese, it's not cinema.
Right.
Or Jennifer Aniston just came out and said that, she wishes we'd have less of these Marvel movies and more of, You've Got Mail and, older stuff like that.
She's just mad that she didn't get to play Pepper Potts.
That she's not getting a whole lot of work. Yeah. Sorry about your Netflix movies with Adam Sandler, but, take what you can get.
Go back to working with Jim Carrey.
Yeah, so let's talk about the movie then.
Okay.
First of all,
I'd like to answer Zod's question, actually.
Oh, of course.
I would be surprised if he doesn't get the nomination, and I think he deserves it, too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he wins. I mean, there's a long way between getting nominated and winning, but I think...
Did Ledger win, or was he just nominated?
I feel like he won it that year.
I think he might have won it, yeah.
I feel like he won it for this. But I think Joaquin Phoenix absolutely would deserve...
At least the
nomination. And if they gave it to him, if he won it, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think he would be legitimate in winning that award as well, for sure.
So my overall problem with the film here is I felt that it was, it was fine.
Yeah,
I felt like I got my money's worth for sure, but I felt like it was safe. I felt like the director that Phillips didn't have his own real vision for it, right? I feel like there was no risks that this movie took. And I think that was my biggest problem is coming out of it. I didn't feel like I was impacted or changed in any way. It ended how I expected it to end, and there wasn't any real big twists. The only twist that I sort of didn't see coming, and honestly, if you took it out or left it in, I don't think that it really would have changed anything.
Yeah.
And that was the plot point with Zazie Beetz, with his quote unquote love interest.
I spent like half that movie like nudging Rob and Sarah and be like, that's Domino, right? That's Domino.
That was absolutely Domino.
For sure. So I don't think, like you say, I don't know that he took a ton of chances with it. It's a darker, grittier 80s style Joker movie, which is fine. I will say that what I was pleasantly surprised about is basically all of the worst case scenarios that I had going into the movie. None of those came to pass.
So hold on. So your like crowning commendation for the movie is that it wasn't the train wreck it could have been?
Well, I gotta say, after 4 or 5 years of DC movies, that's kind of how I'm trained to see these movies, is what's the worst that could happen. But like you say, the whole thing with his quote-unquote love interest, I'm like, oh, God. We said it, I think, last episode. Oh, God, if this ends up being that, like, him not getting the girls what pushes him over the edge, that's going to be awful. No, that's not at all. No, it was not at all what it was. So all those kind of, like, worst-case scenario things that people had thought up for what the Joker might be, none of those really came to pass. It was fine. I don't know what chances I would have wanted the movie to take with the Joker.
I can actually point out a few to you, because I think that there are a few interesting messages within the film, and maybe this was his Todd Phillips decision from the start, but I feel like none of those messages are really put in cement. Like, this is what we're trying to say, right? There's things that you can pick up on, but they don't commit to any of them. Now, that could be on purpose.
Yeah.
In relation to, near the end when the Joker says, I don't believe in anything.
Right.
Okay, which I guess in that case, that's fine. But I think that's one of the things that makes it a mediocre film, is that can be your message. But I feel like when you're doing a film like this, you want to really take a stand and make a message, not just be like, don't believe in anything.
See, I took that kind of
Joker's
differently.
neutral.
I took that really differently, because while he does say that, like all deluded ideologues, he does have a message, and he is standing for something. He's just trying to go walk the path of saying, no, I don't stand for any of that. I don't. This isn't a message or anything.
Does that
I
not,
beg to differ. Everything you do in this movie is definitely a message.
But because he's saying that, doesn't that dilute it for you?
No, because that's the Joker. Like, that makes sense. He doesn't exist in a world of logic, and that is like why it made sense for them to use the character of the Joker for what he's trying to do.
I mean, yes, that is part of him, but that's definitely not the strongest message that I think the Joker could carry.
I agree, and what I think is interesting about it is the whole movie is kind of trying to, they would have you believe that it's a story about mental health, right? And some of the failures of the mental health system, especially in the 80s. But I thought Sarah pointed it out very well as we were walking out of the theater, where she said, yeah, they said it was about mental health, but it's really a story about poverty.
I'll give you that one, because that's something that Katie also says, is she's like, if that's about mental health, they did a very, very poor job of painting it that way.
Don't get me wrong. Poverty and mental health are very frequently intertwined. And that happens all the time.
And there are moments that are obviously very true to reality, with the fact that she's like, they're canceling the whole program. Like, yes, for sure.
Exactly. But at the same time, what the issues that they were really highlighting in there wasn't with mental health, but it was with poverty. And that's really, I feel like, what they were kind of focusing on there, which isn't a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but it's not the story I feel like they were trying to tell.
Yes, actually, we're going to get back to something along those lines here in just a minute. You're listening to The Other Identity. If you happen to be joining us live, we appreciate that, and we thank you. If you've downloaded the podcast, we also thank you, but we'd love you to join us live, and that's over at twitch.tv/checkpointxp. You can find us there Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So going back to this idea of the story that they were trying to tell is again, I go back to just this movie, to me, is just embroiled in mediocrity, because I feel like there's so many different things that they could have said, that they maybe wanted to, but all of their attempts at it were just a few steps before they tried to move on to something else, right? I think that mental health would have been a great thing for them to really buckle down on. Because again, they took a lot of instances and a lot of moments where they showed some really hard truths about our world, and then just kind of rolled on with the story.
In the first third of the movie.
Yes. And what I thought would have been really, really interesting for them to do, because you notice that as he got off of his medication, he started to become, his actions were a bit more clear. He was more confident in himself. He started to, I don't want to say he had a plan, because he's a man without a plan, but you could tell that that's where the big change was. And it was right around the time that he learned that, spoilers, that he was adopted, right?
Yeah.
So that means that he didn't inherit anything from his mother. And he
we know has a narcissistic personality disorder. Or
tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff. And we also learned that he doesn't remember anything from his childhood. I saw something somewhere where it's like they use childhood trauma as a great way to show why he's all screwed up. And I'm like, we had one scene where they mentioned his childhood for 5 seconds. No, they didn't.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they mentioned it, but they didn't really illustrate it.
Yeah,
right.
So he learns all of this new stuff, and basically all the reasons that he thought that he was screwed up and all the reasons that they gave him these treatments and these medications were all false, right?
Right.
And so I thought if they would have buckled down on the idea that he realizes that maybe he's not crazy, the system turned him crazy, right? And obviously we, as a society, determine what's crazy and what's not crazy. But when he gets off of his medication, he goes back. He I think discovers who he is. Now, in our eyes, that's still insane because he goes around killing people, right? But as we know from the mythos of the Joker, he's actually not insane. He's been proven several times to be sane and know exactly what it is he's doing.
Right.
And again, you can kind of see this a little bit, but the fact that they didn't actually sort of buckle down on it and kind of take it all the way to home base, I think, is one of the reasons that I feel like it kind of falls short for me, because one of the coolest things I think is and this is actually one of the things that I'm glad that they put into the character and is new and interesting, that his laughter is involuntary.
Yes,
Right?
I see, and I spent the whole movie expecting to find out that that wasn't true.
See, and again, it depends on how you look at it, but because they sort of just left it up to you to decide, I felt like it fell flat. But when he gives the line that all this time I've thought that my life was a tragedy, turns out it's a comedy. The way that I kind of take that is that he's laughing when he thinks something's funny, but society has told him, no, that's inappropriate to laugh at. That's not funny, right?
Right.
But near the end, he finally accepts that, you know what?
It's all a joke.
They don't get to decide what's funny for me. I get to decide.
Yeah, so I took a couple things a little bit differently than you did. Not so much him getting off his medication. I always thought that was kind of I thought that was kind of a red herring for the story of him getting off his medication. What I thought it more was, and we see it in the subway beatdown, he becomes more confident the moment he's being violent.
That's fair as well.
Like when he's getting beaten down in the subway, he's shaking, he's twitching until he turns over and shoots the first person. And you see it in the way Phoenix portrays it. He stops shaking completely. He's in perfect control as he shoots the other guy. And then as he walks out and chases down the other guy, he becomes himself.
See, and now here's the question, because I think that both of these are great observations. And so the question comes down to, did the director intend for this film to sort of affect people, for people to see it in different ways and have these discussions, or is this just a symptom of not being able to figure out exactly what it was he wanted to say?
I think it's a symptom of a really good acting job. And by that I mean the way that Phoenix chooses to portray the Joker, I think lends credence to the things that I'm saying. Whereas the story being presented to you on screen lends credence to the story that you're saying.
I agree with that as well, and I think that we can look back at Todd Phillips' other work to sort of back that up. Would Due Date or would the Hangover movies been as funny as they were had it not been for the talent that they had?
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I don't think particularly of those movies are funny anyway, so it's hard for me to say.
We watch them for the big names, though, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
I guess
most people do. I didn't.
You just go out and find the bad movies with the bad actors and watch those.
Yeah, listen, if I'm going to watch something that's not going to make me laugh, it might as well be hot garbage.
I mean, I guess that's fair. And I just feel like, again, because what's the message from either of our sides, right? Because I feel like you just disproved mine by saying he was still on his meds and he was violent, and that's where you saw that turn of control, right? And it's hard to argue against that, I guess. But what message comes from either of those two?
I think it comes from early on in the movie. He says that, he wants to talk about upping his meds, and she's like, "You're on 7 of them. You must be feeling something," which says one of two things. Either, Sarah, as the psychologist in the family, was literally just like, well, yeah, if he's on 7 medications, those are most likely working against each other and not working for him anymore. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't know if the average fan is supposed to understand that, but fair enough. It's a combination of the medicines that he's on are failing him, but I think what it's meant to show, and I remember seeing, I think it was Joaquin Phoenix who said this early on, is that what he liked about the character is that we're seeing a character who knows he has this darkness in him, and it's meant to make you feel that fear of when you start giving into it, that you aren't afraid of it anymore, that you like it. And I feel like that is what that scene is trying to show us. As soon as he gave in for the first time and turned around and shot the one guy, he discovered that he liked it.
And see, what could have been a great message, too, had they continued on this path of that's sort of when he starts to realize that maybe what's wrong with him isn't necessarily, like, to him, wrong. And when he gets off of his meds, what could have been a really interesting message to play with was, because I've known some people in the past that spent a lot of their life on medication, and it helped to an extent, but they also had issues from it as well.
Right.
And so to them, it's like, do I have issues while on it and get help a little bit, or do I go off of it, have different issues, but feel like I'm being more true to myself? Like, it's a part of me, and I feel like I need to master that, right? And so when he went off of his meds, I think that he starts to feel better and starts to accept himself. But we also see the dangers of, if you really do need those, the type of stuff that could end up happening, right?
For sure.
And I'm telling you, man, had they just buckled down and picked one message and instead of trying to
double down on it.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of trying to do a bunch of other stuff, I might have felt like this movie meant something more. I'm hearing a lot of people, Trash Panda in the chat, when we were first talking about it, was like, did you not feel any empathy for him? Well, first of all, no. I mean, I can get why people would have, right? People have been in these sort of situations,
Right.
where the system is failing them, where they're feeling like they're not getting help. But he's the Joker, so I know exactly where this is going. So no, at no point did I feel empathy for him. And I actually went back to something that you said in one of our earlier episodes, that this movie, if it hadn't been labeled The Joker, had it just been its own original movie that was inspired by the character, so that way he could have done something new with it, something his own, put his own vision on it, I think it could have been a lot better. It could have been something completely new.
Yeah, so I guess that comes back to what we were talking about with taking a risk, right? Now, so we talked about the Joker, and we've said it before, the fundamental problem with telling the Joker's origin story, which he really doesn't have until now.
And I'd like to point out really quick, too, that Todd Phillips did actually say that he doesn't consider this to be the Joker. He said this could just be, some guy that the guy who actually becomes the Joker sees and is inspired by.
That would have been interesting. But here's the thing. They could have gone a really bold way and had him at the end of this kind of come out on top, and not in the way that he gets out of a burning car and now has a legion of Joker troops at his side. Literally mastering this, coming out a healthy person on the other side of it. They could have tried to go that route with it and have this be a Joker who doesn't just evolve into what we know he'll eventually become. But like you say, because you know where the Joker eventually is going to end up, it's hard to have empathy for him. You do, yes, I see that the system failed him, and that sucks. And that is the message that I really wanted to see kind of highlighted, that like there's an epidemic in our country where the system is not doing the job that it's supposed to do. And even people who are trying to make it work, they don't have the funding, they don't have the resources, whatever it takes. That would have been a very interesting message to really, highlight. But again, because it's the Joker, and because we know that this is the person who's eventually going to paralyze Barbara Gordon from the waist down, no, I'm sorry, I cannot empathize with this person.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that fans definitely seem to be divided on both sides. Either you empathize with him a lot or you didn't, and we'd love to know what you guys think. Let us know on social medias. That's Checkpoint XP on Twitter and Facebook. If you watched The Joker, what did you think? Did you actually empathize with Arthur, knowing full well that he's the psychopath that would become the Joker? Let us know. So the last thing that I want to hang on right here is because I definitely think that the ending of this is what fell flat. And again, everything about this movie was telegraphed to me. Nothing surprised me. And what I just realized too, talking this through with you, what would have been, I think, really bold and what they could have really drove a very, very meaningful message home with is before he goes on the Murray show, right? He's practicing in his apartment, right? Walking out, answering some questions, getting a joke, and then we see that what his plan is that he's going to commit suicide on the show, right?
Yes.
And spoilers, on the show he actually turns and ends up killing Murray instead, right? I think they should have swapped that. I think that when he sat down and he was practicing in his living room, his plan should have been, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them all.
Yeah.
But then once he gets on the Murray show, he has his gun out, he's giving his speech and whatnot, and instead of killing him, and this goes to your point too, where something clicks, maybe he realizes what he is or what he's done and the danger that is to society, right?
Yeah.
Give him some speech or some dialogue where he realizes that there's problems on both sides, right? And maybe nobody actually has the answer, but what he's doing and the events that he's put into motions also isn't the answer either. And when it comes down to it, everyone's, I think, just society's failing everybody. And then the spin is, or the surprise is, that he does end up shooting himself on stage there. And that puts into motion something. I don't know. But I feel like that could have been the twist. That could have, I think, then made us realize that this wasn't a movie about the Joker, the guy that we know.
Right.
Then we don't feel bad empathizing with him. I think that we all then feel really shitty for not pulling for him through the other movie, realizing that he could have turned himself around. He could have changed. Because again, the whole time, I'm knowing he's the Joker, I don't know, I didn't feel anything.
Yeah. So that's interesting. If they had gone the route of him practicing shooting Murray and then at the end committing suicide, wow. That would have been a very gutsy call. I would have at least given them credit for a very bold take.
Yeah, for having, again, his own vision instead of just... Because, again, I don't see anything in this movie that I feel like hasn't been done somewhere before.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have hated that ending. I'll put it this way. Now, I didn't hate the ending that we ended up getting, where he's in the institution, and he has his little moment like he wouldn't get it, that sort of thing, and then apparently murders that person and starts going on a Looney Tunes Scooby-Doo chase throughout the facility. I liked that ending. I did not like the whole sequence of him getting out on the car.
Well,
one thing I've heard it suggested multiple times now that is all his fantasy.
All just in his head, which I was actually expecting as the camera was panning out, that like the screen would flicker back and forth between his legion of followers and maybe just one or two people there, showing that, he's imagining all of these people.
That, again, that would have been an interesting take too.
Yeah,
if they'd gone that way.
For me, all this comes down to is I feel like Todd Phillips was too afraid to really commit to any one thing, and now he's just trying to hide behind the idea that it's all open to interpretation, right?
Right.
Anyone's opinion can fit in here. However you saw it, there's a little bit of us in it, like
there's a little bit of the Joker in us all,
right? Like I just feel like it's really artsy fartsy, and I feel like the only thing that he's really capitalizing right now is people being like, oh yeah, this is a great take on comic book movies. Nobody's ever done this before. Let's forget about Logan. Let's forget about Watchmen. Let's forget about Sin City.
Right.
Nobody's ever done the artsy take before.
Yeah, I liked Joker. I did enjoy the movie, and I know it sounds like we were really railing on it hard. It just left a lot on the table. It had potential to go a lot further than it did, and it irks me a bit that people are saying it's as good as it is. I'm like, it's fine.
No, I think we all liked Joaquin Phoenix.
We did.
You put anybody else in there. You put Jared Leto in there. Is this movie still the masterpiece that it is?
All right. If it was Jared Leto.
Same lines, shot for shot.
Yeah.
But it's Jared Leto's Joker instead. Yeah. Is this still the same amazing Taxi Driver movie of our generation?
Jared Leto's Joker would have ruined The Dark Knight, to be fair. Like, that movie would have sucked with Jared Leto. I think a lot of it does go to Joaquin Phoenix, which, I mean, yes, there is an element of, that taking away from the overall quality of the movie. But at the same time, there is something to be said for knowing the person you need to play the character you have envisioned. If we're going to rail on Todd Phillips for, his movies being carried by their cast, let's also praise him for having an idea of how to cast his movies.
Maybe.
I feel like that goes both ways.
I don't know.
Because I've seen good scripts ruined by a bad cast.
I don't know that I can put the casting on him, though. Because, for example, James Gunn did not want Batista or Star-Lord
That's true.
In his movie.
That's fair.
But somebody else convinced him.
Let's find out who the casting director was.
Oh, she's the same casting director for Joker or for the Marvel movies?
For Joker.
Oh, okay, because it's the same casting director for almost all the Marvel movies, and she's absolutely phenomenally brilliant there.
All right.
So let's see. Let me go through here.
Shana Markowitz.
Well, good job, Shayna.
Good job, Shana Markowitz.
Job,
well
Shayna.
done on that casting call. Well done.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, overall, would you suggest that people see this in theaters, or do you think it's something that they can wait to get at home?
So there's a lot of movies that I do recommend people see in theaters because I think like when we saw Endgame, right? See that in theaters.
Oh, something like that, or something like Pacific Rim. I saw the first Pacific Rim on my TV, or not even my TV, on my computer screen, and I instantly regretted not being in a theater for something.
I always
felt
that way about Lord of the Rings, any Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. See that on the big screen. No, this movie you can see at home. I don't know, and that's not even a criticism of the movie. That's just saying the movie and the story that's being told here. I don't think a lot would be added by seeing it on a bigger screen.
Yeah, I agree.
Even my mom, who was like, "So how brutal was Joker?" And I'm like,
"It wasn't really."
I think only like 4 or 5 people die in that whole movie.
Yeah, and
only a ton of people dying.
Only one of those scenes I would classify as brutal.
I would classify one scene as brutal. There's a lot of scenes that were intense.
Sure,
there's a lot of intensity in that movie, but brutality. There was
the apartment scene.
Yeah,
I mean everything else was just gunshots.
By the way, the apartment scene is my favorite part of that movie.
My favorite part of the movie, the part that I think felt the most Joker, was when he was cleaning out his locker and leaving. And then he says some stuff, and then he comes back and goes, I forgot to punch out, smashes the thing. And then as he's walking out, scribbles out the, don't smile or whatever it is. Like, I don't know, that sequence there just felt the most Joker to me.
I think there was 2 moments that I felt were the most Joker that Joaquin was in those movies. The Joker that we know.
Mm-hmm.
There was the scene in the apartment where he lets the one guy go, and the guy can't reach his thing, and he scares him on the way by.
Mm-hmm.
Very Joker, very Mark Hamill Joker at that. And when he's on the Murray show and says they couldn't carry a tune to save their life.
Yeah.
That was an incredibly Joker line. Those were the 2 moments where I was like, there he is.
Yeah.
There's the Joker.
All right, guys. Well, again, as always, we'd love to know what you think. So connect with us on social media. Make sure that you're following us, twitch.tv/checkpointxp, checkpointxp on Facebook, and Twitter, and checkpoint_xp on Instagram. That's going to be it for us this week. Joe Boy, take us away.
Will Joker get a sequel? Will it win an Oscar? Tune in next time. Same Twitch time, same Twitch channel.